Hi everyone, I'm Josh Earl.
And I'm Will Garcia.
And together we're the Hoops Guys. We've got a special video today because the NBA recently put out its All-Star ballot. So we wanted to put out what we call our Ramen Noodle All-Star ballot. Will, tell them a little bit about what we mean by the Ramen Noodle All-Stars.
Right on. So in the NBA, there are a lot of guys who get kind of underappreciated and totally underpaid.
Yes.
Particularly, there are a couple of guys, actually more than a couple handfuls of guys in this league who ball like all-stars, or at least we think that they can ball like all-stars. We're using that term kind of loosely, but players who really can play well and contribute to their teams an absolute lot, but still get paid under the league average salary. And really, ramen noodles kind of signify what they do, because let's face it, most people like ramen noodles. Like if you actually ask them, but ramen noodles also kind of get crapped on a lot, and they're also really cheap. And I don't know, they kind of get the brunt end of things.
Yeah, they're perceived as cheap and not that good, but who doesn't love ramen noodles every now and then? Sometimes you just feel in the mood for some ramen noodles. And
it's the ultimate
if you've
struggle
ever
food.
been a college student,
yeah,
or grew up poor, which we have, ramen noodles is a staple.
Yeah,
and
it is the ultimate struggle food.
Yeah, exactly. And Ramen Noodle All-Stars is our way of appreciating the players who make a big impact on their team, aka they feed those hungry college students who can't afford more. And we wanted to celebrate those guys, so we're making our inaugural Ramen Noodle All-Star ballot, which we'll put a link to that document in below this video, so that you guys could actually pick your Ramen Noodle All-Stars and comment below if you want to. And we will make our inaugural picks for the East and West Ramen Noodle All-Star teams as well.
Absolutely. Do you want to go first, or am I doing it?
Yeah, first, let's just say we went through all of the player salaries, all the current player salaries, and we looked at every player that wasn't on a rookie scale deal or on a second round draft pick deal. So even undrafted free agents were counted, but anybody that was on a rookie deal or second round rookie deal, we excluded them. So the average salary that we're citing here is the average salary for non-rookie deal players.
Yep.
And that average salary is $5,913,488 this year.
Yeah. Makes it kind of a misnomer to call them ramen noodle, but hey, we'll take it.
Yeah, it's relative. It's relative ramen noodles. Yeah, but all of the guys that are in the ballot, their salaries for this season are below that number, and the guys that Will and I are choosing for our teams, they are also, core pieces of their team. They may not be the star or even the second star or even that guy who stands next to that second star, but they do make an impact on their team.
Yep.
So why don't you start us off, Will, with your choice for the Western Conference Ramen Noodle All-Stars.
So my Western Conference Ramen Noodle point guard is Darren Collison, playing out in Sacramento. And I kind of gave this guy crap in our Sacramento Kings preview, called him the John Doe of point guards. I still kind of stand by that, but he has shown that he is a good facilitator and that he can be a decent tertiary scoring option and shot creator. He's averaging about 16 and 7 this year and playing decent defense. His shooting's kind of down, but really, he's doing all right. And I think the Kings got a really good deal on a $4.8 million contract. He just signed it. I think it's a 3-year deal.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So He's really outperforming that, and he showed that he can be a decent starting point guard. And for that price and that level of notoriety, awesome.
Yeah.
So for my ramen noodle shooting guard, we have Courtney Lee, who is balling out of his mind in Memphis. We talked about him a bit in our second fan show, I believe.
Yep. And in our Memphis Grizzlies preview.
Yeah. He is performing at a level, he's shooting at an unsustainable level, but it's amazing.
True, but the past couple of seasons he's been a particularly adept mid-range shooter, well above league average. And in his career, he's posted multiple years where he shot over 40% from three. So the current shooting numbers probably aren't going to stay that way, but I wouldn't foresee them to regress super hard to league average or anything like that. This guy can play.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think he ends the year in the 50-50-85 club.
No, probably not.
Having said that, Courtney Lee is arguably the best sort of 3-and-D guy in this entire NBA. Really just killing it out in Memphis, and he, along with Marc Gasol playing extremely well, is a big reason for why Memphis is one of the top seeds in the Western Conference right now. He's averaging 12 points, 2.5 boards, and a couple of assists, steals, and a steal a game, and is a really solid process defender, not unlike my ramen noodle small forward, Danny Green for the San Antonio Spurs, who is doing really similar things. Also shooting really well, 40% from three on over 5.5 attempts per game. Really, that's a high volume of 3-point shots to be shooting at that high of a clip.
That's some Dylon action right there.
That is some Dylons, about 3.8 Dylons. Posting a 61% true shooting number, which is really, really good. And I think that Danny Green is the best transition defender in all the NBA.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
And that includes LeBron. Danny Green can not only do some pretty cool stuff, he blocks a lot of shots for a wing. He really does. And he's really also a good process defender. But what he can do in breaking up a transition play is just super valuable. He saves a couple baskets every game just because he's so good in transition defense. Another really solid defender, Timofey Mozgov.
Mozzie!
The Moz God out in Denver, who is really having a phenomenal year and showing that he's more than worth his current contract of about $4.6 million. You know, he really took that starting spot from JaVale McGee, and that makes me incredibly happy. There is some justice in this world. Mozgov's averaging about 10 and 8, 1.5 blocks, shooting a 61% true shooting, 77% or 76% rather from the free throw line. Anytime you can get a big dude who can protect the paint, protect the rim, reasonably mobile, grab some boards, and hit free throws, and actually not be a liability in late game situations, that's awesome. And at that kind of a price, you're really kind of robbing the dude.
Yeah.
Another guy who is kind of getting robbed this year, but probably won't next year because he's going to be a free agent this upcoming offseason, Robin Lopez, who is...
Rolo!
Yeah, you have Sideshow Rob.
I love Sideshow Rob.
He's awesome. AKA the number one enemy of mascots around the NBA. You should see what he did to Hooper.
To be fair, screw mascots.
I agree.
Sorry, Zach Lowe. I know how tight you are with the mascot thing, but I gotta back my boy Rolo here.
Yeah. With no regard for mascot life. Anyway, Rolo is doing pretty similar things. Like basically everything I said about Mozgov can also apply to Rolo. Really, really solid rim protector. A guy I kind of slept on before he came to Portland, but is really balling out of his mind now. Good rebounder, not like great at it. He's not, he's not like...
He's a good team rebounder, kind of like how we mentioned with Nene for the Washington Wizards.
Or his brother. Brooke does that too. Although Rolo will get a couple more for you. But another big dude who can hit free throws, which is always really cool. Protect the rim. pretty damn well and really works really well in that offense. He does really well with what he's tasked to do, operating primarily down low, pretty solid in pick and roll situations as well. So who are your picks for the Western Conference Ramen Noodle All-Stars?
So my picks for the Western Conference Ramen Noodle All-Stars starts off with JJ Barea of the Dallas Mavs.
Yeah, that
you guys weren't expecting that, were ya?
Yeah.
Well, out of all the backcourt players in our Ramen Noodle All-Star ballot, JJ tops them in assist percentage at 33.4%, and he has the lowest turnover rate at just 8.7% of all of those guys. And, you know, he's one of those guys where in Minnesota it didn't really play out that well for him, but you return him back to Dallas and he gets to run those pick and rolls with Tyson Chandler and Dirk Nowitzki again. And he is playing very well, and all for the very, very low price of $909,859. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Will mentioned my two wings, so I'll touch on them a little bit too. Courtney Lee, of course. I'm a big Courtney Lee fan. He's scorching the nets, shooting a 65.7% true shooting percentage.
That's crazy.
He moves the ball well, 10.6% assist rate. And on top of it, he plays very stout man and team defense, all for a contender.
Yeah.
All for just $5,450,000.
That's
pretty
really
impressive. Good. And then, like Will noted, Danny Green's been Dyloning the Nets to the tune of a 61.3% true shooting percentage.
Yeah, average is about 52.
Yeah. And he's moving the ball well. He had the seventh best assist percentage of wings in our Ramen Noodle All-Star ballot at 9.2%. And he does this all while playing really smart man and team defense. Like Will said, he's the best transition defender in the league for the defending champion Spurs. And it only cost them a little over $4 million for his services.
Yeah.
My first big is Ed Davis from the Los Angeles Lakers. I mentioned in our Lakers preview that I thought his deal was probably the best steal in free agency this offseason. He's currently Windexing the glass at a 17.9% total rebound rate.
Yeah.
He's protecting the rim with 4.5% block rate. And he's scoring efficiently, 61.9% true shooting percentage, all for less than $1 million this year.
Yeah, that is an insane deal.
I don't know how he wound up only getting, less than $1 million given how well he played in Toronto. Obviously, there was the minutes jam in Memphis that maybe decreased his value a little bit, but guy can play, and thus he is one of my Ramen Noodle All-Stars.
Yep.
And Will also took my starting Ramen Noodle All-Star center, but I don't care because I love this guy. Sideshow Rob, Rolo, I call him the Goonie Supreme. Rolo is the perfect elevate guy for the Blazers.
Yes.
Like Will said, we both underestimated his acquisition, and in fact, I'm actually going to do a video apologizing to Rolo sometime in the next couple weeks about underestimating him and just kind of professing my fan love for him and what he does for my team. But he's a great defensive linchpin for the Blazers, whose defense has just gotten so much better with Rolo here.
Yes.
Like Will said, he doesn't necessarily put up crazy rebounding numbers, but he's a really good offensive rebounder, and he does a great job boxing out so that LaMarcus Aldridge can get defensive boards, which if you've noticed, since Rolo came to the Blazers, LaMarcus Aldridge's defensive rebounds have gone up. Not a coincidence, I think.
Yeah.
And on top of it, he's just one of those great glue guys that kind of fills all the little holes that you might not even expect and allows his teammates to focus on what they do best. And it only cost the Blazers $5,340,229 this year.
Yeah.
That's a really good deal.
Yeah, for a guy who fits not only like your team but also your cultural like city. Like he's the most Portland Trailblazer for a very long time.
Yep, probably since Walton.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for the Eastern Conference, we have Ramen Noodle All-Stars for that too. Am I doing this or am you doing this? Because that's English.
We'll flip it. I'll start with the Eastern Conference then.
Go down.
So for my point guard, I'm going with Mario Chalmers from the Miami Heat. Yeah. Right now he's posting career highs in true shooting percentage, 57.8%. Like Will said, 52% was league average last year, so that's pretty good. Assist rate, he's at 25.1% this year. Points per 36 minutes, 15.5, which is much higher than his previous seasons. And his usage rate with LeBron gone is now up to 22.1%. And the Heat are getting all this additional production for just $4 million this year.
Do you think that he could be, because right now there aren't, I don't know, I think he might get some 6 Man of the Year nods.
He might. I don't think he has a strong chance at it, but don't get some.
I'm not saying he'd get the award, but he might get a couple nods.
Yeah, he might. For my two guard, I'm going with Mike Dunleavy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't stutter. That's the nickname. At least that's what Noah calls him, Dun. And Dun. Yeah. He started the season really well from a shooting perspective.
Yes.
He's hitting 58.2% true shooting percentage. And that includes a 38.4% mark from three-point range. And he's doing all this while moving the ball well, posting an assist rate of 10.6%. And when you look at his skill sets, it makes sense why the Bulls wanted him. He's a savvy veteran wing that can space the floor, and he won't kill ball movement. And that's exactly what the Bulls ordered, and the bill only cost them $3,326,235.
Yep.
That's a pretty sweet deal. Another sweet deal, one of the better sweet deals outside of maybe Ed Davis, Atlanta Hawks' DeMarre Carroll.
Yes.
He's really lived up to that billing as a 3-and-D guy this year. He's shooting 40.9% from three on over 6 attempts a game. That's really damn good.
Yeah.
And he's earning his playing time by playing really strong man and team defense. I think he's well worth the paltry price of $2,442,455.
Absolutely.
It's hard to find a really, truly legit good 3-and-D guy, and DeMarre is getting paid less than $3 million.
He's also a really good wing rebounder.
Yep.
You know, so, I mean, there's really only 3 parts of basketball, or 2 or 3, depending on how you view things. But offense, defense, and rebounding.
Yep.
And he can do
he
all
contributes
3.
In all 3.
Lord.
And will touch on that more because I have the feeling Will's got DeMarre on his roster too. For my first big for the Eastern Conference Ramen Noodle All-Stars, I'm looking at Lavoy Allen for the Indiana Pacers. He was kind of a throw-in or a seeming throw-in with Evan Turner and that Danny Granger trade at the trade deadline last year. But he's really earning his minutes this year. He's playing 21.7 minutes a game, and that's because he's been cleaning the glass very well.
Mm-hmm.
So his rebounding splits right now are 14.4% offensive rebound rate, 23.9% defensive rebound rate, and 19% total rebound rate. That's really good numbers across the board. And on top of it, he's posting a career-high 2.8% block rate. So he's providing some rim protection for a team that obviously rim protection is important for them. And he's only costing the Pacers $915,243.
Wow.
That's really good production per dollar.
Absolutely.
And this next guy, he's probably the highest paid of the Ramen Noodle All-Stars. He's just below the threshold. I'm talking about Patrick Patterson from the East-leading Toronto Raptors. He's making $5,831,326 this year, but he's earning it because he is their floor-spacing big man.
Yeah.
As we know, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan are slashers. They need space to get to that rim, and he's the guy that helps open that up for them.
Yep.
He's shooting 45.2% from three right now, which not many bigs are shooting that well from three, and he's doing it on over six attempts a game. So he's not
really
just
good.
like taking 2 shots from three a game and hitting them at a high rate. He's shooting a lot of threes and he's converting, and all while still being a presence on the boards. He's got an 18.6% defensive rebound rate, and so you combine that with the spacing that he helps open up driving lanes for DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, and help take some of that defensive pressure off of Jonas Valanciunas in the post.
Yep.
And you can see how he's been impactful for the East-leading Toronto Raptors.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So my point guard for my Eastern Conference All-Stars would also be Mario Chalmers. And really, it just kind of goes to show what winds up happening when you give a player more shots. Mario Chalmers is actually, in terms of shooting the ball, kind of having a bit of a down year.
Yeah.
He's only shooting 31% from three. He's usually a really good three-point shooter. Not quite sure what's going on there. But
Probably a little more on-ball three than like catch and shoot threes, I would think.
yeah, that makes sense. But he's still putting up some decent numbers, and really there aren't that many point guards in the Eastern Conference who are under this sort of threshold. So he was the best one there was. I went with him, and he really is having a decent year.
Yeah.
At the 2, I also went with Mike Dunleavy. Really, it's every reason that you said. Plus, he's also not a bad team defender.
Nope.
He fits really well into their defensive schemes. I mean, he is not the most athletic, and he isn't really your most typical man defender kind of guy.
But he is 6'9".
Yes, that does help.
Yeah, and he's smart.
Yep.
So
I also went with Damari Carroll. Not going to touch on him too much because he basically took the words out of my mouth. But the guy is a really good shooter, really, really good wing rebounder, solid man and team defender. That is more than enough to be worth a starting spot in today's NBA.
Yep.
Dude's getting robbed right now.
He will definitely get paid a lot more this next offseason.
Absolutely, because I think you're right. He is a free agent.
He is,
coming
yeah.
off season. One place where Josh and I differ is that I went with Mirza Teletovic as my first big man. Really has that sort of stretch element going on. He's shooting about 34% on over 5 attempts per game for the Brooklyn Nets, and 5 attempts per game is a lot. Plus, he has a really good offensive reputation from 3. Shot about 37% last year from there. So defenses stick on him pretty well, and he can keep the ball moving pretty well as well. Where he has about an 11% assist rate. It isn't as high as like a point guard, but it's still pretty damn good for a big dude. Speaking of pretty damn good for a big dude, Henry Sims is pretty damn good for a big dude on a minimum contract. Really showing some improvement this year for Philadelphia, especially with his shooting. He's shooting over 42% from mid-range, 16 to 3 feet, making that a bigger part of his game. And he's taken about half a 3 a game this year, and he's shooting about 36% from there. Again, that's only about a sample size of about 10 3-point shots. So, or maybe like 11 or 12. I don't know how the math works there. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but that's, if he can hit that reliably over the course of the season, that's going to be pretty killer. He's not a great rebounder, and he's not the greatest sort of rim protector guy, but it's pretty interesting having him next to a guy like Nerlens Noel, who can definitely mitigate some of those issues. So I think that wraps up our Ramen Noodle All-Stars for the 2014-15 season. That's our ballot.
That's our ballot. Like we mentioned at the start, we'll post a link to the document with the Ramen Noodle All-Star ballot, and we want to hear your guys' rosters. So comment below with your choices for the Eastern and Western Conference Ramen Noodle All-Stars. We look forward to seeing them. And as always, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give it a thumbs down. If you really enjoyed it and you want to share it, feel free to share it with Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, Interpretive Dance, carrier pigeon, telepathy, however you want to do it. And if you want to be notified of our future videos, hit that subscribe button. And as always, big, huge thank you for watching.
Yep, take care, guys.
Bye.